Hey there, this is me, and I wanted to um, make a video because I read an article this morning as I was eating breakfast. I read an article in the Seattle Times about the Seattle Police Department on the front page of the Seattle Times newspaper, and I wanted to read it, and then I wanted to do my tarot cards and kind of ask questions and everything. So I am just going to grab my newspaper and give me a minute, and I'm going to read it. Okay. Wednesday, June 1st, 2022. The Seattle Times. Seattle Police Department does nothing about new rape reports. Seattle Police Rape and Child Abuse Unit staff has been so weak that it stopped putting police this year on new cases with female victims, and that's something that the chief of police said over in April. The unit sergeant put her staffing crisis. The community expects agency to reports of rape. Current staffing levels is something that we can't get. Police agencies have had across the country have had with labor shortages during the COVID and since 2020 protests after the murder of George Floyd. Seattle's failure to staff the rape unit stands out from order from other local police departments and raises questions about the Seattle police. So there was a note that it said April 11th came with a wave of new promises from police in Seattle. Last fall, Seattle voters picked a new mayor who rejected calls to take away the money from the police department and completely get rid of the police and clear public spaces of homeless people camping. And obviously, when they do that, when they get rid of the homeless people sleeping there, then the streets are a lot safer. Behind the scenes, police leaders confronting an ongoing staffing crisis shored up patrol positions that respond to homeless people camping. So obviously that is something that is very important. Now, the department's lack of attention to the rape assault unit is threatening the case's delayed evidence collection, so that could make it even worse. St. John went on to say that she was not able to assign rape assault cases came into her unit. Crises involving kids and adults such as suspected in custody. Adult rapes reported to police were being that just wasn't really that important. King County prosecutors say that they're talking about sexual assault unit, about understaffed, but little has changed. Chief says in the Seattle Times that the week didn't say anything about what is happening. You know, they didn't really say much. And then she said, quote unquote, rape cases are being assigned, but the workload is being based on the number of factors that we would those. She says that obviously there weren't enough police working there. She could not provide up to date count of how many women being raped were on hold. Other detectives in the units with a list of honestly probably about 50 cases. Other political leaders weren't really sure that the idea was understaffed was led to blame for the rape units. And a King County would have led efforts to improve treatment of the rape victims, and the rape units would be about. I cannot tell you how angry I am about this. It's completely unacceptable. This is 2022. We should not be talking about resources. So that was a quote from one of the women that actually works there. A starved sexual assault unit. The staffing crisis in the Seattle police is not new. The department has been losing police since the beginning of 2020. The staff levels dropped with a new low at the end of 2021. While 2020 began with over 1,000 officers in service, by March in 2020, those numbers dropped to less than 1,000. Well below the department's own, but what the city expected to say on their salaries. She defended the rape victims unit's low staff numbers, saying that across the department felt the losses. This rape victim wasn't even the most affected. I could bring anybody in here from anywhere in the department, and they would tell you the same story. That's a quote from her. Seattle police says that the Seattle City Council on April 26 show that the workforce have been completely against the department. According to the Comptroller Central staff, the percentage of the force in operations support, which includes training personnel on extended leave, has been trivial, and units have been. She explains that the patrol wasn't just for trying to control 911, but they also have taken in reports of rape and more abuse. And then there was another quote. If we don't have a police to respond to the rape unit, we'll never have to have that. So I've said to make sure maintain that there's enough police. At the top of that priority, rape victims and those in the suspect's in custody, according to a response in the memo. Now they maintain a new women being raped isn't simply for them. Currently, the rape unit has 5 police to respond to the rape and the child abuse reports for the whole city of Seattle, which has 225 sex offenders reported so far this year, according to the department's crime data. Yet other units don't investigate violent crime have more. The department's response team, the unit that responds to homeless camp removals, is staffed by twice the number of officers after the sexual assault unit. After more than 7 were added to the unit this year, the department's been a unit which has investigated property crime has 12 police. Far more property crimes were reported to the Seattle police each year than sexual assault, but they are simpler. When you have businesses that are the single biggest loss leaders in the country telling you we are going to the businesses of the city of Seattle, if we don't do something about the crime, we have a responsibility as a department to try to do to them that we have to support them with policing. The department has allowed investigative units called sexual assault units to fall 16% in the total sworn, while the proportion of police in areas including patrol leadership, the understaff of sexual unit has drained the morale of its employees, most of them overworked and burned out, according to a detective in the unit who said that we not use his name because the police department does not want them talking. While detectives struggle to make a dent in large child abuse and the rape cases, the department has drafted them to the work security and traffic control events. He wrote the memo after the April that showed Seattle police were investigating few women cases of women who were being raped, and there were over 100 alerts showing the DNA from rape kits that had been uploaded to federal and needed attention. That's what they were talking about with the police. The rape unit has been staffed with about 10 guys, but that unit could start chipping away because there's so many women saying that they're getting raped, and we have responsibility as a department to try to do what we can to support them. And now there's less than 10 cops working there. Mayor Bruce declined to be interviewed for the story, though the Jamie said that they had been added to the rape this year. Mayor has been more that they have been more officers to ensure that the units are well staffed and they are completely swiftly. And since John's April 11th, detectives have started getting the assignments from new cases where women were raped. But number of cases are waiting to be investigated. Even with the added detective, adult assignments are still failing by the wayside, according to the detective inside the sexual assault and the child abuse case. There are now about 50, honestly, women that have been raped, cases that should be assigned but aren't being investigated. Victims' weight case suffers. Since 2020, King County said that there have been fewer rape cases where the women were raped. They say, so that's what they were talking about between January and April of 2020. Seattle police referred to 123 rape cases and child abuse. In the same time period, they have received just 72 cases from Seattle police. Ben Santos, the King County's rape unit, says that he has a problem with him. He says that more than one time she's described dozens of cases sitting on her desk unable to find them because they don't have enough police. Seattle police leaders are having to make really hard choices right now, given that the murder and violent crimes are up. We have done our best to try to let people know what this means as far as the women who are being raped. It means that these cases are not being investigated. They said that they should be. That was a quote for her. He said that if the police are assigned a clear case that they would normally get, it makes it hard to collect evidence, that nature, getting the video, witnesses, because there's a lot of stuff that takes. I really think that the degree suffer. Santos says that he had been victims and go to Harborview Medical Center for treatment after being raped can end up waiting hours. These women go to wait all day, because to fill a report with the police. We have worked in over 30 neighborhoods while everybody's dealing with the backlogs and everybody's dealing with the fact that there are hardly any guys that are working on the police department, and we're just seeing not really the same thing in the other part of the police department. Seattle City Council Public Safety Committee Chair Lisa said in an email that she's been talking with people who have raised the alarm about victims whose cases, honestly, the police did nothing about. Though she was unaware of any policy within the Seattle to stop assigning when the women get raped and just completely not do anything about it at all. Seattle Police Department has planned to add yet another detective to the rape unit this month to deal with the case on staffing concerns. The long-term solution to understaffing in the rape unit has increased hiring across the department. To that end, they announced increase in police hires last month while they had the council approve a proposal to free up more than $1 million unspent salary savings to fund new police hiring and bringing on these guys. They have stressed, however, that they would like to see more in how the Seattle Police Department. So what I am going to do is, that was a really long article, and I don't really honestly know where to begin, but obviously this is what you're here for. I'm going to do my tarot cards, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of read the article again, to be honest with you, read it word for word again, and then I'm going to use my tarot cards and everything, and I just kind of want to go, and then when I see, something that I kind of want to ask a question about, then I will use my tarot cards and just kind of ask a question about it. So I think what I first want to do is, I think I'm going to do like a Y spread, like a 4-card spread, and just sort of do like an overall thing about the whole, article. I think it's pretty common sense. I mean, as it clearly states, I, read it, and I read it as, like I've said, there was, I was reading it over breakfast this morning, and that's what it's talking about, is in the Seattle Police Department, is that women are getting raped, and there's just not, enough men to be hired in the police department. Okay, so this is actually really interesting. So the thing that I was talking about, I said, you know, they need more guys working for. This is what the article's about. They need more guys that are working in the police department. So the first thing that I pulled was the King of Wands, and that's actually kind of interesting because I'm just asking about, you know, they need to hire more police, and it's interesting that I pull a guy. The second card that I pulled was the Eight of Swords, and that is not a good card because it's not really a good card when I'm asking about, you know, this whole Seattle Times article about women being raped and the police not having enough, you know, the department not having enough guys working for them. And then the next card that I pulled was the Seven of Cups, and that's really not a good card because that just means there's like confusion, and I think that really is very accurate because I think that's kind of the whole summarizing the, you know, what the whole article is about. You know, the Seattle Police Department, they have all these hundreds of women being raped every year, and they don't really know what to do because there's just not enough guys that are working, that are police officers for the police union. So now I'm going to get into the article again. I'm going to read it the second time. Okay, so Seattle Police Department doesn't do much about rape reports. And a rape unit says the detectives are assigned in most cases due to staff shortages. Seattle Police Rape Unit and Child Abuse Unit has been so weak that it responded to detectives this year with women that are getting raped. And that's something that the chief police says, quote unquote, the community expects our agency to respond to reports when they hear of women getting raped, and current levels are just so low. Police agencies across the country have been grappling with labor shortages during the whole COVID since the 2020 protests after the murder of George Floyd. Seattle not having enough guys working there in its rape unit sounds like from the local police departments and asked question about the Seattle Police Department. So they had this note that sent April 11th came out amid a wave of policing in Seattle. Last fall, Seattle voters picked a new mayor who said no to calls for getting rid of, so they just want to have, you know, to less money for the police department, and obviously she was saying no, and the police getting in the public spaces, you know, homeless people, you know, camps, and just kind of getting that out. Behind the scenes, police leaders confronting an ongoing staffing crisis showed up patrol and respond to homeless people, and then after that, you know, honestly, after that, they just had, after they started to get those homeless people out of there, was just a lot less police. Now the department's lack of attention to the rape unit is threatening cases, delayed, and this is really getting out of hand. She was not able to assign rape cases involving kids and adult cases that had a suspect in custody, adults being raped and reporting to police. The unit just had too few detectives. Those concerns bear out referrals from the rape unit. King County say that they've talked with the rape unit about understaffed, but really nobody much did this. The Seattle Times and This Week didn't say anything, and she said that she was overreacting. Rape cases are still being assigned, but the workload is being triaged and the number of factors that we would get. she said that there weren't enough men working across the department. She did not provide any, she didn't really say currently last month how many women being raped cases were on hold, although the unit are keeping a list with on the honestly probably about 50. Okay, so I personally want to get into that, so I'm going to take my tarot cards. I'm gonna kind of go into that because, like, okay, I'm just going to kind of paraphrase what the and just do a widespread about what I just read over is that there's just so many, you know, the whole thing about the articles that there's just so many women getting raped, like hundreds of women getting raped, that they have to push it kind of toward the back and they won't even, you know, look over those. So she said that what her previous over a year ago, right now there's, if you had to put a number on it, there's probably maybe about 50 police reports filed from probably maybe 50 different women that have been raped, and the police just are too busy and they just really can't do anything about it. Okay, so the first card that I drew was, again, the Eight of Swords, and that is really not a good card because that is like, you know, it could be being stuck and everything like that, and that's really not good sword cards when you're talking about that. Then the Ten of Wands is not a good card. That is like one of the worst cards, and that could be, you know, drama, and it's like one of the worst situations, so that could be a situation like this. And then there is the Ace of Swords. So I personally don't like it when we are talking about, you know, there's just being hundreds of women raped in Seattle every year, and there's just so many women being raped that there's about 50 you know, cases that are just not investigating. Other political leaders said that the idea understaffed to blame for the rape. I really can't tell you how angry I am. This is completely unacceptable. This is 2022. We shouldn't be having conversations and talking about, oh my God, what are we going to do when a woman gets raped? Starved rape unit. The staffing crisis of the Seattle Police Department is not new. The department has been losing officers since the beginning of 2020, and the staff levels plummeted to a new low at the end of 2021. While 2020 began with over 1,000 officers in service, by March 2022, those numbers dropped, so there were less than 100. Or less than 1,000, I'm sorry, while the departments own what the cities were expected to spend on their salaries. She said that the rape unit's low staff numbers, saying that the unit across the department felt the impact of the losses. The rape unit wasn't even the most affected. She said, quote unquote, I could bring anybody in here from right now from anywhere in the department and they would tell you the same story. Seattle police numbers were shown to the Seattle City Council on April 26, showing that the reductions in the workforce have not even been felt across the department. According to the council, central staff, the percentage of the force and the occupation support, which includes training and personnel that are on leave, and the patrol division has increased while the investigative unit have thinned. So the chief of police, Adrian Diaz, explained that maintaining control numbers which just wasn't important for trying to control 911 response times, but also in reports of rape and child abuse. He says, quote unquote, we don't have an officer to respond to the rape. We're never going to have to follow up to be able. So I try to make sure that we've had our patrol staffing levels at the top of the departments for investigating women being raped cases with those suspects in custody, according to him. A small part of the cases typically seized. The unit said that the new rape cases, and it's simply for the lack of the police. The rape case now has only 5 detectives to respond to rape and child abuse reports for the whole city of Seattle, which had been 225 women being raped reported this year, according to the department's crime data. So I think that I want to kind of do like a widespread and just sort of go into that. And so, you know, kind of like I said, I mean, Seattle is just so huge. I mean, I was born here, I've always lived here, and there's a million people living in Seattle. And you know, so child abuse and women being raped and everything. So they said this year there was like 225 women being raped. Okay, so the first card that I pulled was the moon, and I'm not really sure what that represents, but that's kind of like the confusion card. And then the Four of Swords, and that is not a good card to come up. I don't like when I'm, you know, asking, and swords are coming up when I'm asking about 225 women being raped. Yet other units that don't investigate a violent crime have more staff. The team says that the encampment is now staffed by twice the number of police on the rape unit after more than 7 patrol officers were added to the unit this year. The Department's General Investigations, which has property crime, said they have 12 police. Far from property crimes are reported to the Seattle police at the rape unit, but they are simpler to look up. When you have been businesses that are single most loss leaders in the country, we are going to close down the businesses in the city if we don't do something about the crime. We have a responsibility as a department to try to do what we can do to support them with police. The department that has allowed the units, which has the rape unit form from 15%, is down a little bit with the police in Troll. Leadership support increased. The understaff of the rape unit has been most of the morale of the employees. Most of them are overworked and burned out. To the unit who asked, he said that he didn't want to say the name because the Seattle police said that he couldn't speak with them. While detectives struggled to make a dent in the child abuse and rape caseloads, the department also have them from the work security and traffic control for the events. Story in April showed that the Seattle police were few rape cases struggling where they were required by the law quickly, and the cases with children. At the time, he wrote that the memo, 30 cases were waiting to be assigned to police, and 116 alerts showing DNA rape kits had been uploaded to a federal database. The rape unit had been staffed with typically 10 guys working as police, but the unit started chipping away at the backlog of women who had been raped with 8. Now, though, the spokesperson said that the rape unit this year. Mayor says that the Seattle police needs more police to make sure that the units are well staffed and that they are, you know, doing their job when they're doing investigation. Since April 11th, you know, they sent the note and everything. I already told you about that. The police are starting to get new assignments for new cases with adult victims, but the number of the cases are waiting to has grown. Even with more police, adults are still falling by the wayside, according to the detective rape unit and child abuse. There are now 50 cases that should be assigned, but nobody's doing anything about it. Victims' rate cases suffer. Since 2020, King County have seen fewer rape cases referred to their office from Seattle police. Between January and April of 2020, Seattle police referred 123 Seattle assault and child abuse cases to the police officers in that same time period this year. They have just gotten 72 cases from Seattle police. Ben Santos of the King County said that he has talked about it on one more occasion. She described it as the cases sitting on her desk. Lack of the police. Seattle police leaders are having to make really hard choices right now, given that the murder rates and violent crime rates are up. We have done our best to try and let people know what that means, as far as the women who have been raped. It means that their cases are not being investigated as they should. He said that the police are getting assigned a case later than they normally would. It makes it harder to collect evidence, including video, third party, and that really takes a long time. I really think that this has a degree of it will suffer, as do the victims. Santos says that he has gotten the victims who go to Harbor View Medical Center for treatment after being raped. Sometimes these women, it takes them all day long to report with a police officer. Victims of the rape cases reported their cases to Seattle police aren't hearing anything back. Seattle's slowdown of investigating women who get raped doesn't match what Stone has seen from other police. We work with 40 neighborhoods, and while everybody's dealing with backlogs and everybody's dealing with not enough police, we're not seeing something. Seattle City Council Public says that the Chair Lisa says in an email she had been talking with advocates that raised the alarm about victims who were not being investigated, that she was unaware of the policy within Seattle Police Department to stop assigning cases about women that get raped. Advocates the police department has planned yet another Detective 2 rape unit this month to deal with that. According long-term solution to understaffing for the rape unit has increased to the end. She said that they want more police hires last month. Well, last week they had a proposal to free up more than $1 million in unspent money savings to fund new police hiring. Advocates say that they would like to see more in how the police handle this. Okay, so I just kind of want to do a summary and everything. I just to kind of remind you and everything. I read this article about the Seattle Police Department and everything. I read it as I was eating breakfast this morning. I just thought it was really interesting, with the Seattle Police Department. And so then I did my tarot cards and everything, and I just kind of read it, the article for the first time and everything, and then I started off with a Y spread because I kind of wanted to do, sort of like a summary about, just kind of like a general Y spread, what this article about. And then I did, and then I read the article a second time, and I used my tarot cards to kind of go through the article and do a couple of Y spreads about, the women getting raped and everything. So basically, I think that is the end of my article, and I did the Seattle Police and everything, and I really hope that I thought it was really interesting, so I really hope that you enjoyed my video. I worked very hard on it, so thank you, and I will be uploading more videos this weekend. So thank you for watching my video, and I hope that you enjoyed it.